Welcome back to Down the Stretch, everyone. I'm Mark Asano. The Saratoga Special goes to Runaway and Hide, now unbeaten in 3 career starts for Ronnie Werner and Robbie Alvarado. Our first guest this morning is a gentleman who has been a very busy man this past week. He's been inundated with questions about the outstanding Philly music note. Would it be the Alabama? Would it be the Travers? He's here to answer that and tell you why. Ladies and gentlemen, the American trainer for Godolphin, Mr. Rick Mattee. Rick, welcome back to Down the Stretch.
Thanks, Mark.
I hope this is the final time that you will be asked this question. Is Music Note definite for this afternoon's Alabama?
She is definite for this afternoon. We're running both Phillies.
With Music Note, what factors came into play in making the decision to run her in the Alabama?
Well, the final decision wasn't made until last night, Mark. I spoke with Saeed, who flew in last night from the UK, our racing manager, Simon Crisford, and of course Sheikh Mohammed from overseas. And it really came down to a couple factors. One, the weather forecast. We knew we were pretty likely by 5:30 this evening to have a fast track. And another was the field size. It seems like every day the Travers field is getting bigger and bigger. So we were just concerned if we waited a week, we'd feel a little silly if we ended up drawing 12 out of 13 in the slop in the Travers when we could have run in a 5-6 horse field the previous week on a fast track. So that was really the ultimate factor.
Had the field for the Travers look like it was going to come up substantially smaller? Would that have played into the decision?
I think so. It could have. You know, if it had been a 6-7 horse field, we'd have thought about it. 5-6 horse field, I think they'd have really considered it. But you know, we thought the opportunity was there. It would have given her another week between starts, which she could have used off 2 good races in 3 weeks, like she had in both times she ran was very hot days. So we thought the extra week would really help her. But still, all things considered, this was definitely a better spot today.
How did Music Note come out of that brilliant victory in the coaching club? I understand she was knocked out pretty good after that race.
Yeah, that race took a lot out of her. It definitely took more out of her than either the allowance or the first grade one did. I mean, she ran 1.25 miles for the first time, and she's a lightly raced filly as it was, even before running the 1.25 miles. She ran the last quarter in 24-1, so there's no question, even though she won by 11, that race definitely took something out of her. And as I said earlier, that was one of the considerations for the Travers. It would give her 5 weeks between starts.
By going to the Alabama, it's obviously coming back a week quicker. Is she doing as well as you would like to see her be doing heading into a major race like the Alabama?
Well, she's had a really good week this week. Unlike most trainers, we're never completely satisfied with anything. She's had probably like to have a couple of more weeks and gotten a couple of more breezes in her, and Saeed and I spoke about that. But we still felt that she was going to be better off this week than next week, even having gotten another work into her, which we could have done had we run in the Travers. So I'm not saying she would be, you know, quite at that peak that she was for the CCA Oaks, but we're still pretty confident we're leading a fit, sound filly over there this afternoon.
Speaking of the coaching club American Oaks, we are about to take a look at it. Ladies and gentlemen, the Godolphin duo, Little Bell is number 1, Music Note is number 1A. Rick, I'm going to ask you to talk about this race, but specifically 2 things. Little Bell, it appeared to me, was ridden in here like her connections weren't sure she could get 1.25 miles. Comment on that first, if you would.
I think that's a fair assessment. For one, she'd only breezed 3 times since we'd gotten her from Karen McLaughlin, and we really weren't sure of her fitness level going into it. You can see she got a little bit keen here, and I think that's probably because she hadn't done enough work. She was just a little too fresh for this. And I think Rajiv knew that going in, too. He knew this filly very well. And, yeah, we were concerned off the preparation she had if she'd get the 1.25 miles or not. So we were quietly very pleased after this.
Now, coming off this performance, granted, she got beat 11. Coming off this performance, will the instructions be to ride her differently in this afternoon's 1.25 miles?
I think just given the post position draws and all, to answer your question, Rajiv's going to ride his own race today. He's not going to be worried necessarily about what Music Note's doing. He's not going to be sitting there as some sacrificial lamb for
Right.
Music Note. He's going to ride his own race. She's a Grade 1 winner in her own right, and we definitely feel she's come on from the last race. The last couple of pieces of work she did, especially her last work over at the Green Tree track, was a very good work, and we think she's narrowed the gap with Music Note, certainly, and we just got to hope she was soundly beaten by Proud Spell in the Kentucky Oaks, and we just got to hope with a mile and a quarter that she's narrowed the gap with those good fillies.
Well, here's Music Note gliding up to the leaders, ridden with tremendous confidence. But here's the question I have for you. Javier rode her pretty hard through the stretch. Now, she did run the last quarter in 24-1, and that is brilliant time going a mile and a quarter, but he's riding her pretty hard here. Was this by instruction?
No, I think if Javier had to do over again, I don't think you'd see him probably go to the whip with her the last couple of times that he did. But in the heat of battle, that's just something that happened. We can't go back and redo it again. What's done is done, and I guess he was just a little concerned how she'd get the mile and a quarter too, and I guess he just didn't realize that his stablemate was behind him, and
a long way behind him.
Yeah, good ways behind him. So no, that wasn't by design.
One breeze for Music Note in between the coaching club in the Alabama. It was at the old Green Tree training facility. 102-1 breezing. Was that what you were looking for?
Yes, it was. Said and I spoke about that, and we talked about what we should do in between starts. And as I said,